Hello, good people, and welcome to Finance Skills Hub. Here, we learn, we connect, and we grow. If you use Excel for data analysis, you should use Excel tables. Tables offers a lot of advantages: structured referencing, dynamic filtering, and sorting. But most importantly, because you're going to be using dashboards, if you store your data in tables, it offers you this dynamic update feature. So you don't really have to worry when your data expands or shrinks. In this video, I'm going to show you 10 reasons why you should be using Excel tables. Maybe that will change your mind and it will help you work smarter and faster. So if you're game, join me in Excel and let's get started. So before we begin, you may be wondering, what is the big deal about tables? You probably use tables in Word, you use tables in your PDFs and all that. It's not that kind of table. So the table we're talking about is a special feature in Excel located under the Insert tab. This is a table. It's a special object that allows you to organize related data. It puts some structure to the area you are working in so that you can reference it without even using your mouse to select. At least when it comes to tables, that is the minimum advantage that you get. But the point here is that it makes it easy for us to analyze data because you can give it a name, you can use that name to create pivot tables and never even worry about when it expands or shrinks. So the first thing we need to do is that once we have data like this, and usually the data type that is good for tables is a tabular data, the one that doesn't have empty rows or empty columns. Okay, so something like this will not be good for a table. We can manage empty cells, but we prefer a data block where related fields are grouped together and then it goes down like that. Okay, so transaction data, sales data, fixed asset register, HR data, those kind of data sets are usually fit for tables. You can use tables on income statements because there are gaps in between when you present them. So this sample HR data is an ideal data set to use as tables. Once we have our headers, okay, and then the data flows under each column, related data, it is good for us to insert a table on. So basically all you need to do is stand in a single cell, go to insert, and then you insert a table. The shortcut is Ctrl T if you are standing in that single cell. Now you see that the range is defined. So my table is going to start from A1 to K31, which is the last cell. When you're inserting tables, you need to clearly define your header. Okay, so in this case, row 1 represents my header. You have to check this box to confirm that. If you don't have a header, you can uncheck this. Excel will insert that header for you. Then you can have your complete table. So I'll go ahead and insert my table. So this is what I have. So once the table is created, the first advantage you have is the automatic formatting. Okay, so you see these banded rows. So these banded rows make it easier to look at your data. You also get some filter icons, okay, to help you filter by column and all that. But truth is that it's not this feature that makes it a table. The table is present when you see a table design right here. Okay, so the table design contextual tab is going to be present to show you that you are working within a table. In the table design contextual tab, you have options to apply your table styles. Okay, so you can go light without any. So even if you don't have the banded rows, this will still be present for you to know that you are working within a table. Sometimes too, when you go to the bottom part of the table, you see this label, okay, this peg that tells you where the table ends, right? So the idea here is that if I'm using a table, I have the option to select any automatic formatting style that I want. Okay, so even if your data already came with markers, some existing colors, you can reset the formatting by right-clicking, applying and clearing the format, and you have a nice clean table. So that is the first advantage. So the second advantage and the reason you should use tables is that it offers us structured referencing. Now, what is structured referencing? My ability to reference the table, the entire table, columns in the table without using my mouse. Okay, so this table is now in here, in the table design, in the far left, it is given a default name, table 1. I can have as many tables in my workbook as I want, but I can also give a name to that table. So I can call this data, I can call it HR, I can call it stuff. Okay, so you can give it any name that speaks to what is in the table. Now, the idea is that once I name it like this, okay, I don't have to use my mouse to work in this area. I can create a structured reference to that table. So if I come here and I do equal to stuff, right, you notice that it pops up for selection. It's not only the entire table I can select, I can also select portions of the table, which we reference as fields, okay. If I bring a square bracket, you notice that I can now reference any part of my table for my calculation, okay. So example, if I want to select age, I can come in here and then close my square bracket, right. You notice that the age has been selected. I didn't select this with the mouse. Now, the advantage here is that with the structured referencing, you can do simple calculations, okay. So if staff age is selected, I can run something like average on this, okay. So if you are new to Excel formula work, you realize that some basic functions start with an equal to. So if I do equal to average, here I can reference my table staff, okay, bring my square bracket, put in age, and then close my square bracket, okay. So I can do all this calculation without necessarily selecting the data physically from the table, okay. Another advantage is that I can even do this in another sheet. So if I come here, I can do the same average, square bracket, age, close square bracket, okay. I get the same value here. Here, I'm doing it in another sheet without physically seeing the source data. So that's advantage number 2, allowing us to do structured referencing. So now, the third reason you should use tables is that it gives you dynamic range expansion, okay, which automatically updates your calculation. So as you can see, currently the average age for all staff is 40.83. If I have to add on, all I need to do is to come and add a new record. Where this data ends, this is the last cell, if I hit the tab key, it automatically inserts a new row for me here, okay. So I can add another record. Let's say Bernard here is 31. I'll put in my name, Bernard, okay. This is male, and then let's say I give myself 90 years, just so you see the effect it has. Automatically, you see that this updates my original calculation from 40 to 42. I didn't have to expand the range, okay, because I'm working with that structured reference. So that is advantage number 3. The fourth advantage is that tables come with integrated sorting and filtering features, okay. So if you are using tables, you don't really have to do heavy work when it comes to sorting and filtering. It already comes with filter icons, okay. Even though this feature is available in normal ranges, right, in tables, it comes by default. So I can use this to filter only females if I want, okay. My table gets filtered to only females, okay. I can clear easily, okay, right. Now, the good thing about tables is that if I want to sort, even if I'm standing in just a single cell, I can stand in that single cell and then sort alphabetically, like from A to Z or Z to A. Just a single cell selection, okay. So again, it's quite easy to sort and filter when you are using tables. The fifth reason why you should use tables is that if you do any formula work in Excel tables, guess what? It automatically expands. You're able to fill down without having to manually copy down. So as an example, I'll cut this and paste it somewhere. Let's say I want to extract the location for each staff's bank detail. That location is after a comma, okay. So I can put in a new caption here called location, okay. If I expand this, I can now come here and then let's say use any text function. So I can use text after, okay. So text after, I will select this one, right. I'll bring a comma. That is the text I'm extracting from. Now the delimiter, as you can see consistently, we have comma and space. So in double quotes, I'll put in comma and space. Okay, so that is all I need. Now watch this. If I press enter, I get my first value. Some table settings would have copied this down automatically, right? You can use that setting, or you can now use this icon to override, and then you see that all branches are easily extracted and copied down automatically because you are in a table environment. So with tables, if there are empty rows that you want to even get rid of, again, you select a single cell, you can right click and delete it nicely. Okay, no heavy work in there. So just a single cell selections can do most of the actions that we do with data sets. Okay, now one exciting feature about tables is the total row feature. Let's say you want to do some quick analysis on your data. Okay, example, I want to find the average age for a particular department. The table comes with a feature called the total row feature. So if I go to the table design and I activate total row, you'll notice that I get this row added to the bottom of the table. It's not for data entry. You see that it has a drop down here. Okay, so usually you come in here, you select the aggregation that you want to do on the column. So example, if I want to average, I can put in an average and it gives me the average, right? If there were other values, I can sum, I can count and all those things. But the point here is that if I want to, let's say, find the average age for a particular department, while this is active, I can go and apply a filter to that department. So I have finance here. Okay. So I can use a filter icon to select finance, or even using one instance of finance, I can right click, filter, and filter by selected cells value. Okay, you notice that by applying that filter, this is updated to reflect the department that I'm interested in. Okay, so with the total feature in tables, you don't really have to do formula work heavily if you are just looking at summary statistics or some basic aggregations with your table. Of course, if you are done and you want to clear the filter, you can come in here, clear the filter from here, or you could even do a Control-Shift-L. Control-Shift-L is your shortcut, okay, to clear the filter. It removes the filter. You can use the same Control-Shift-L to bring back the filter icons. Now, because of the structured nature of tables, it offers us a very good way to insert pivot tables. If you are not using tables and you want to insert a pivot table, you probably have to highlight the whole area before you insert your pivot table. With tables, you don't have to do that. Just standing in one cell, you go to insert and you insert your pivot table. The pivot table will recognize your table structure. In fact, the name will pop up here. Okay, then you can dump your pivot table in a new worksheet. You notice that all my fields are here. Okay, so I can do any summary that I want. I can do age by department. Okay, if I like, this is summing. So I can come in here, instead of sum of age, change this to average. Okay, so really I have reduced the mouse work in here. Just by studying the table, I'm able to lift it and then create a pivot table out of it. Here's the good news. If the table source updates, that is, if new data is added or it shrinks, on refresh, your pivot table also gets automatically updated. No need to resize the original range. Same way tables are good for pivot tables. When you are using Power Query, which is Excel's tool to transform and clean data, Power Query can easily identify tables, so you don't have to again do the mouse over. So in this table, I can just right click, okay, and I have the option to get data from a table. Of course, you can use ranges as well, but it's not as dynamic as tables. So I can use this option to lift the entire data and then take it into my Power Query for analysis. But if you are doing this, remember to take off the total row so that it's not added as a record in your table. Okay. Another way you could do this is that when you come to data, you can use this table icon to lift the table and then put it in Power Query for your transformation. As it comes into Power Query, you notice that the name of the table is already here. Okay, so I can now continue with my transformation and the query name as I want in my analysis. So again, it's properly suited for your Power Query work. Another thing that makes it easy for us to use tables is the name feature. As you realized, we named the table here. Okay, we call this stuff. In a worksheet, you can have as many tables as you want. Okay, as long as you give it names, it doesn't really matter. So in this table, I can create a smaller table, let's say for just the list of departments. Okay, so let's say I want just a list of departments from this table. Okay, I can come in here and then run the unique function, right? The unique function is going to extract and remove duplicates on the department column. Even if you want to use the mouse, okay, the tables make it very easy to select the columns. If I come here, you see this down black arrow. Once I come in here, it locks in and selects the entire range at a go. I don't have to really highlight and drag down. So you see that I have the table name stuff and then the column name department right here. So if I press enter, I now get the list of departments. So this gives me a dynamic array or a spill. Okay. In this current form, I'm not able to insert a table on it. So I have to convert this into a normal or regular text. I can copy Ctrl+C, Ctrl+Shift+V to paste values. Okay. So this is now good for a table. I can just stand in here, press Ctrl+T, okay, ensure that my table has headers, so I'll check this and I'll click OK. So again, in one worksheet, I have two tables. I can name this and probably call this departments. Okay, so I now have staff here, I now have departments here, side by side. If I come to my name box, these are here. So I can use these names without physically selecting them in my pivot table work or any analysis that I want to do with the tables. In the era of AI and Copilot in Microsoft Office tools, tables offer us a very easy way to use Copilot for analysis. So again, if I'm here and I want to analyze this table, if I'm standing in a single cell, I come home and I want to do some high-level analysis or just summary statistics on the table, I can use Copilot. Okay, so I'll come in here. So with Copilot, you have to save your workbook in OneDrive. So I'll turn on autosave. Okay, then I'll save this in my OneDrive file. So what I've basically done is that in just 2 clicks, I've now set up the area for my Copilot analysis. Okay, now I can use pivot tables. I can even get insights using Python and all those ones, right? So getting insights from Copilot will be a topic for another day. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the table feature allows us to easily set up the stage or source for our analysis using Copilot. Okay, so hopefully you now understand why you should use tables. If you're not using tables, it probably means that you are doing a lot of mouse work when it comes to analyzing your data. If you're not using tables, it's likely when your data updates, you have to resize your ranges for your pivot tables and all that, right? So as long as you are using pivot tables, Power Query, or any of the BI tools in Excel for work, tables offer you a very, very clean way to store the data and also analyze for almost real-time updates. So hopefully you've picked up some lessons here. Go ahead, use tables, work smart, and get insights on the go. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in another video. If this video was helpful and you would like to receive more of these videos directly on your WhatsApp, you can send ad to this WhatsApp number. We'll add you to our broadcast list so you receive our videos directly. You can also visit our YouTube channel, Finance Skills Hub. All our old videos are here. Please subscribe for notification of new videos or connect with us on any of these social media handles. Thank you so much for watching.